On today's episode, we welcome Smark and Friends to the show as Dits is on holiday. We're talking winner takes all Survivor Series and a whole host of other stuff, and that is all coming up for your listening pleasure right now.
DOW. Dits on Wrestling.
Welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast, the Royal Navy's only pro wrestling pod, probably. And today we've got a little bit of a different focus. This is not what you're used to, guys. We used to get the highlights in, we get Laugh of the Week, we got Walk the Plank. But as you're listening to this, I am not in the UK. I am in a foreign country, hopefully, fingers crossed, sunning it up by a pool, drinking all-inclusive cocktails and getting rather drunk. That's the dream right now. But I had to put something out for you guys because I'm such a good host. I need to keep you guys happy. So I'm filling that void with something a little bit different. So this is still within the episodic stuff. So this is episode 29. It's not a bonus episode or any of that kind of stuff. But it's just topical. I'm just picking one topic and we're going to go with it. But I'm not doing it alone because I am bringing reinforcements. Because you don't want to listen to me harp on for an hour about Survivor Series. Of course you don't. I'm bringing some backup in the form of Smarkmouth, Zach from the Smark and Friends podcast. Zach, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks for having me, man. That sounds like a kick-ass vacation. You must be looking forward to that.
I am. It's long overdue. It's long overdue. So we're going with the wife and kids. So it'd be nice to get away. And I won't be watching wrestling. That's the sad thing. Unless they've got Wi-Fi, then I'll definitely try and sneak it in when they're asleep. Probably 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll just be sat there watching Raw and SmackDown on my phone.
Oh, whatever, man. You can always just binge watch it when you get back too.
Or I could do that, but because actually saying that, it's not actually a bad idea because I actually tend to fast forward through a lot of Raw and SmackDown anyway, so it'd be no different really. I'd be able to binge a whole week's worth of wrestling in about 2 or 3 hours, easy.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'll be nice and refreshed. Hopefully, that's the dream.
For sure.
So just for context for everybody, this whole episode came about because I put out a tweet just kind of hyping the winner takes all match from Survivor Series 2001, just kind of saying that I was a really big fan of it, but just kind of saying what people's thoughts are. And then you came in with an almighty Red.
Yeah, I had opinions.
And I was reading it and I was just like, this is great stuff. This needs to go on an episode. I need to get Zach on. I wanted you on this show for so long, and man, now is the time to pull the trigger and drag you on. And we've somehow made our schedules meet.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to do on opposite ends of the earth. And
I believe we're 5 hours apart as well, which is insane. It's 2:30 in the morning here.
Oh geez, yeah. It's 9:30 here. Yeah, so there you go.
I'm dedicated to the cause.
Yeah, you're the man.
So because it's your thread that you've thrown together that caught my attention, and of course we are talking about the winner takes all match from Survivor Series. We're going to talk about other stuff from that Survivor Series and the whole build up to it. But let's just start off by talking about that match itself. Now, for me, I have very, very fond memories of it just because when I watched it, I think I was, well, how old was I? I would have been 10 years old when that match aired. And I remember like being so excited for it. And actually, I think that was at a point as well when I actually thought wrestling was real. Like, it wasn't scripted to me. It wasn't fake to me. It was everything that happened was happening, despite what my stepdad used to say to me. He goes, that's fake. I was like, no, it's not. It's still real to me, damn it. So
it's a shoot.
It's a shoot, man. But I went to school the next day after Survivor Series, and I remember I was asking all my friends, I was like, did anybody watch Survivor Series last night? Did anybody watch it? I need to know if WWF is still in business. I need to know. And I was asking everybody, and then people were winding me up saying, the Alliance won. And I remember it clear as day. We were all sat around this table just talking about it. I was excited about it. It was a really good time. That's why I have fond memories of it.
Sure.
And when I've revisited the match quite recently. I still enjoy it. But now with an older head on and having consumed another 18 years worth of wrestling from that point, there's a few pickup points. There's definitely a few pickup points. That the just pure excitement that I had is not as much as it was when I was 10 years old, because I can pick holes, and I know you can pick holes as well, Zach.
Certainly.
And I know you have with your Fred.
For sure. And, to your point, it's less immediate. So, you lose that level of excitement. You can't go back and vicariously watch it all for the first time all over again. So you do kind of lose the excitement a little bit there, too.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a shame because I think it was around that time when, anything that WWF was putting out, I was always excited. I used to watch SmackDown at 10 o'clock on Saturday mornings. I used to get up for it and just park my ass in front of the TV and just be glued to it. And I used to enjoy the absolute hell out of everything. And I miss just that time of just being an innocent wrestling fan who didn't have social media, no spoilers, no breaking of kayfabe, none of that stuff. I miss that. But now that I have a child, or two children, who watch me watch wrestling, and my eldest actually reacts to it, he knows who quite a few of the guys are, I'm looking forward to seeing wrestling through his eyes when he's old enough to, really understand it. So, when he hits, 7 or 8, I'm looking forward to that, because then I get to revisit how I felt. Because it's one of those things, I will tell him that the Tooth Fairy isn't real. I will tell him that Santa doesn't exist. But I will never tell him that wrestling is scripted. I will never do that to him.
Good for you, man. That's the way to be. My eldest. He's still a little too young for it. But I remember sometime last year, I just happened to put on Raw the next morning after I recorded it or whatever, because I heard there was this whole segment. It's got some real buzz to it. So I know my child is in the room. I'm just going to quickly put this on. And of course, it's the segment where Becky Lynch got her nose broken by Nia Jax, and suddenly I have to shield my child from the view of Becky Lynch with blood pouring down her face. There it was not my finest moments as a dad, but I'm looking forward to when the kids are older and maybe can sit back and watch some wrestling with them.
Yeah, that's I can't wait. I can't wait, and I can't wait to take them to their first live show as well. It took me until I was 25, I think it was 24, to actually go and watch wrestling live. So I ain't gonna make them wait that long. Even if they don't want to go, I'm still gonna drag them regardless. Yeah. Because usually I go on my own, so I need company. So I'm gonna drag my 4-year-old with me. But initial reactions, I'm from the actual time itself, what can you remember from the winner takes all match, when it first broadcast?
Yeah, in spite of my big tangent on the build and everything, I don't want to take away from the action of the match itself. These are two all-star teams and Shane McMahon, but it's still a very fun match to watch. If you just kind of ignore the backstory, everyone gave it their all. RVD really shined. I wasn't crazy about the finish. Kurt Angle working for the Alliance the whole time, until he gets eliminated. Then he comes back and costs Stone Cold the match. It was just a little forced and labored, and that kind of took away from it for me by the end of the match. But again, like, everyone was just awesome and just on their A game for that match, and nothing can be taken away from the talent in it.
It's funny how Shane, even back then, was still giving himself the spotlight.
Oh yeah. And again, he's fun to watch. I get it. Like, he'll jump off the big thing here and there, and certainly he fit in this match because of the storyline. But that spot could have easily gone to like Diamond Dallas Page or someone who is more intrinsic to WCW / the Alliance. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, like I'll probably keep saying this, but I go back to when I was a kid, and when it came to the finish, you know, I was like, oh my god, this is incredible! Like, Kurt Angle, like, he's back on Team WWF, and now he's hit Stone Cold. This is awesome, because everyone thought it was Stone Cold, but it didn't end up being him. It ended up being Angle, being the McMahon's secret weapon.
Yeah.
And then The Rock picks up the win. I remember going, they're just absolutely losing my mind. The Rock is my favorite wrestler of all time, so him picking up the win was huge for me. But like you said, that like now, when I watch it, it does seem forced. It's kind of like, did they really even need to do that? Can The Rock not just win for WWF on it by his own merit? I mean, it's not like it's the Big Show in the last two. It's the freaking Rock. And Stone Cold, like, if The Rock could do it on his own, and no one's going to be like, well, that's not believable.
This is it, yeah. I mean, like, it just felt like they did that whole Kurt Angle thing, so they had a reason to keep him on TV and storylines after the end of the whole saga, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I liked the fallout of what we had with Kurt. You know, we had Jimmy Crack Corn and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't all bad, but no, like, even him jumping to the Alliance in the first place, even though like that moment when it happened on Raw, I think it was, maybe it might have been the Invasion pay-per-view. I can't actually remember.
I think the Invasion is when Stone Cold jumped. I forget when Kurt jumped.
All I can see is red ropes. So I'm going to go with Invasion or Raw. But either way, when it happened, like, it was a great moment. It was really cool. It was just like, oh shit, like, Kurt Angle has turned. Like, this is insane. But then at the same time, it's like, why? Why is he turned? Like, there's no need for him to turn. Like, it's like you said, there's so many other options that you could have had. You know, you could have brought in... DDP is the big one. For me.
Yeah, so mismanaged in that whole angle, but yeah.
Yeah, because I talked to him on I talked about DDP on my last episode of DOW Draft That, and how he started off like really strongly in WWF as the stalker of The Undertaker. I didn't actually mind that. Like, just throwing that out there. I didn't mind that storyline. It was as soon as he ripped that hood off, like, it was a big deal. That was a big reveal. That was an awesome moment. But then he just kind of vanished. Like, I don't know what happened to him. Like, do you have any like knowledge of this? Because all I remember is him stalking Sarah, and then that's it. He just poof, gone.
He stalked Sarah. Got his ass handed to him at King of the Ring. It wasn't even like a match. It was just like DDP had bought a ticket, and he publicized that he was going to be in the front row. Taker beats him up. There might have been a match, but like, you know, as we're clearly demonstrating, it was very forgettable if they did.
Yeah, and he's employed by WWF. So why is he not being used in this winner takes all match? Because, like you said, when you take Shane out of everybody within that Alliance bubble, I mean, you could have had one of the top ECW guys. I mean, where the hell was like Sabu and Sandman and all them guys? I don't. Maybe they were there and I just don't remember them because their impact was just nothing.
Sure.
But you could have just taken Shane out and put DDP in, and nobody would have been like, why the hell is DDP in this match? Like, it would make a lot more sense. And I just find it strange that he was employed and just wasn't used. Bizarre.
Yeah, he I'm looking at Survivor Series, the card now. He was in the Immunity Battle Royal Like,
What?
he was just a warm body in that match there, which is very unfortunate.
So he's on the fucking pay-per-view, and you're not.
Yeah.
He's one of the faces of WCW. He was the guy you brought in.
Champion, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like having Goldberg, like, part of the Alliance storyline, but then not putting him in the winner-takes-all match.
Exactly. That would have been just a fallacy.
It's so strange. I mean, what could have been with this winner-takes-all match? And I was going to save this till later, but I kind of want to know now because I go off on tangents, Zach. I don't know if you listen to the show,
good, man.
But I go all over the place with stuff. So I'll probably end up forgetting this question, but I want to ask it. If you were booking it, who would you have had on Team WWF and Team WCW had you had access to everybody that should have been there?
I get what you're saying, but before I answer the question, I am going to kind of address criticism that the invasion angle has always kind of had, but I've never quite agreed with. So I'm criticizing the criticism about the angle that I've always been criticizing anyway. So it's we're going around in a circle here. A lot of people have said that this angle failed because it lacked the big stars. And I'm not going to argue that like Goldberg, Sting, Hulk Hogan would have brought this angle to the next level. But the people who they did have, they had more than enough working parts. Like we said, DDP, Booker T, people within WWF like Big Show and Chris Jericho. You could have made a proper invasion angle with these working parts and made them seem like a big deal. But to answer your question, like if I had like access to Team WWF team versus Team WCW, WWF is Austin and Rock, Undertaker, probably Kane as well, because like that was pretty solid. I don't know who I'd have for a fifth guy, but I would have Chris Jericho on WCW side.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, along with Booker T, DDP. I'd probably work in Shane because like he's been so present through the entire angle. I thought Rob Van Dam was a good fit as well, so I would also have him there. Now I'm kind of like struggling to find a fifth guy on either team.
Triple H was injured, so if he wasn't injured, I would have thrown him in with Team WWF.
Yeah, and I would say
Kurt Angle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, Kurt Angle. I'm looking at a picture right at him. I don't know why I blanked there. But yeah, had they not been hurt, Triple H would have been a good pick for WWF, as would Chris Benoit be for Team WCW. But, yeah, like, the angle didn't fail because it didn't have access to the stars, but it just didn't work they didn't know how to work with the pieces that they did have.
Yeah, and it's like you said, like, I go back to Kurt Angle jumping ship to join the Alliance, but it does make more sense having Chris Jericho go across. Like at this point, he'd only been with WWF for 2 years, maybe 3.
Sorry. I didn't answer your question properly. I'm sorry. I'm just going to actually go back. If I had like access to everyone from WCW, then my team is easy. It's Goldberg, Sting, Booker, Scott Steiner, and Hulk Hogan.
Steiner?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the second time this week somebody has bigged up Scott Steiner to me, because I don't. The only like memories I have of Scott Steiner are Big Papa Pump and a Maths promo. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like he's not my favorite guy ever, but he was a big personality, and I think that would be including him would have led to a lot of like pretty solid entertainment right there. Yeah.
I dig.
So sorry, I interrupted you.
No. That's why I told you tangents, mate. I'm more than happy to accept tangents both ways. I tangent, you can tangent and interrupt. It doesn't bother me. This is a no holds barred podcast.
It's a tangent safe zone. I like it.
No, but what I was saying was, like we talked about Angle jumping ship to the Alliance, but like we said Jericho would have made more sense having been in WCW for quite a long time. Guys like Eddie, guys like Benoit. Dean Malenko, all these, Big Show, like, if you put those guys in the alliance, you've suddenly
makes so much more sense.
Exactly, you've boosted them like completely. Like they are now a credible force to be reckoned with, instead of guys like I'm blanking so many guys like Lance. I mean, not discrediting Lance Storm, but Lance Storm, guys like that, and just incredible.
Sure.
You know, those kind of guys. I mean, they did well with tag teams. You know, Dudley's went across. That made sense because of ECW. You know, so some of the jumps, William Regal as well, him jumping ship, made sense. He was in WCW. It was just like, why are you pulling the trigger with these guys, but not with the big stars? And I know you want to make WWF look strong. I get it. But I mean, you look at the actual WWF team, you had Big Show and Jericho. You take those two out, move them to the other side. You've got Austin and Angle, put them to the other side. So you've got Rock, you've got Austin, you've got Angle, Undertaker, Kane.
Exactly. Done. That's WWF. That's Team WWF right there with all people who are signed with the company at the time.
Exactly. And then the other side, you've got Jericho, Big Show, Shane, Booker, RVD. Makes so much more sense.
Yeah. You know, like Jericho kind of had his coming out party like after the whole invasion angle, after like, you know, he won the Vengeance, beating Rock and Stone Cold in the same night and everything. But there's no reason they couldn't have put that effort into building Jericho as a credible general for Team WCW. And just like, he could have made it work. He could have been a star so much, just like those few months earlier.
Yeah, and imagine Chris Jericho being in the final two against either The Rock or Austin. Like,
exactly.
That alone is like big enough to boost his profile.
Easy, yeah.
So
he just has to. He could have been the last one against both of them, beat one of them, and then goes on the next month to beat both of them in at Vengeance.
There we go. And this is why hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And this is what the Alliance storyline is. I mean, we talked about it before. You know, we even had this chat that throughout the time that it ran, just before WrestleMania, so March 2001, all the way through to November.
November. Yeah.
That's a long, long time to have a lot of missed opportunities, and it just seemed like they'd find like a really cool moment, like, and I'm talking like moments like Steve Austin being in that bar all night and then suddenly coming to Team WWF's rescue. One of the greatest moments in WWE history.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. This angle started off so good, so strong. And I feel like that was because Vince was able to, or, you know, I'm just like hypothesizing here. I'm not going to pretend I know what's going on in that madman's mind. But I think like at first, like he was able to check his ego. WWF was allowed to look weak, creating real tension. And that's why you had those great moments where WWF, like, finally they had that big moment where Stone Cold came to the rescue and finally WWF gets the upper hand and everything. But, like, later on, you see the ego kind of creep in and WWF suddenly can't look weak against the Alliance until they have WWF guys go to the Alliance. And that's the only time they start losing again. It's like, come on, you're just booking more WWF versus WWF stuff. This isn't an invasion angle anymore.
Yeah, and that's the shame of it. And this is what I'm worried about now with, looking at Survivor Series 2019. It's not as big of an angle as the invasion angle was. Of course, it's not. This thing is going to run for, you know, like a duration of probably 4 weeks and then be forgotten about for another year. But like, you can have so many guys who are on the main roster now jump ship to NXT side, or you could have guys in NXT that have come back. So to like guys like Tyler Breeze could then like jump back to the main roster, all that kind of stuff. Like, it just wouldn't work. And I don't. Yeah. It's not going to happen for that very reason. Of course, we're going to get guys like now Finn Balor is back on NXT, so, you know, potentially he could go back to the main roster. But just one or two, I get it. I'm okay with that. You know, Finn Balor is now a heel. and he seemed to kind of side with the OC at the last NXT show. It's kind of it's not going to be big enough to create an issue and for people to be scratching their heads, just like it was with the Alliance, because it's only going to run for 4 weeks, and it's because I think smarter heads will prevail here, and it will just keep NXT against the, and I air quote here, the main roster. Yeah. Simple booking, that's all it needs to be. And again, like I said, it's only 4 weeks worth, but it's simple, that's all it needs to be, rather than just a complicated mess of ego checks and trying to make one side so much stronger than the other. For no, like, when we go into this winner takes all match, it should be on an equal footing. Like, when you look at the locker rooms who are cheering the guys on, like, you look at the WWF locker room, and there's some big names in there, some great names. And then you look at the WCW side, and you got guys like Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo and Nunzio and all these kind of guys. You're just like, really?
This guy's ahead and built up, yeah.
But you could have spent time building these guys up. Like WCW/ECW guys were kind of just, they were a collective unit, and no individuals below the big stars were allowed to shine. And I think that is another missed opportunity, because you could have built up so many guys. Like, no matter what point in the card, like the Hurricane, you could have built him up as like the big cruiserweight underdog of WCW, of the Alliance. Didn't really do that.
Storm as well? Yeah.
Lance Storm as well. Like, I'm a huge fan of Lance Storm. I think he's incredibly underrated. Like, I've recently gone back and watched old SmackDowns from, like, well, actually around the Alliance and post Winner Takes All Survivor Series, and I forget just how agile he was, how technical he was. Sure, he was a charisma vacuum, but I can look past that. Like, his in-ring stuff was brilliant. He's so underrated in my eyes. Like, you could have made him a big deal. Guys
Easily.
Like him, you could have actually made him that big of a deal that he was in that WCW team, in that Alliance team, in that Winner Takes All match.
I mean, all you need is the image of him with I know he didn't have these championships anymore, but like the sight of him with 3 WCW championships, all converted to, with Canadian flags on them and everything. Like, you look at that, like, you don't need to know anything else about that guy. You know he's a big deal, and just build on that.
Yeah, it's just missed opportunities, like
one after another.
And I look back, and again, I keep going back to it, but when I was a kid, I've just fond memories of the Invasion, and I wish it was still the same, because I have looked back since. I'm aware that everybody kind of puts it down as like the biggest missed opportunity in wrestling history. Like, it's not even a hot take. It's like a lot of people. It's the general consensus, I think, that it is it is one of the biggest missed opportunities. Like, much in the same way of Nexus debuting and destroying the ring after Cena Punk's match, like, that was a missed opportunity. But like the Alliance and the Invasion, just everything around that, I mean, that for me is the biggest missed opportunity, because it could have been so good, good.
I
know, it's so disappointing to reflect on it.
Yeah, and there's and again, I'm coming back to this, it just started so strong. Like, I come back to King of the Ring, the DDP Undertaker stuff, and Booker T running in during the main event. Like, that's when you could have like planted the whole seeds of doubt with Jericho being a member of Team WCW or whatever.
And if you didn't have,
I've lost my venom now. I'm just kind of like, what could have been?
I know. And if you didn't have people like willing to set out their contracts, we could have had NWO, like, actually booked well in WWF. Like, we could have had that during this invasion angle. We could have had Goldberg. We could have had Sting, Flair, countless others who decided not to show up. Like, guys, Sabu, Sandman, all these great guys from ECW as well who didn't come over. We could fantasy book this thing for hours of what could have been, and it's just a shame.
I wonder how many podcasts out there have actually like taken the time to properly lay out a whole invasion scenario angle. Like, I just got to imagine like that's been like vivisected beyond recognition now.
I mean, you could probably cover that as a podcast over like a year, easily.
Invasion, what could have been.
Maybe. Like, I'm looking to start a new podcast, so maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe I cover that.
Dits. Shall we collaborate?
Yes, let's do it. But I know that you've been a little bit disillusioned with the current WWE product quite recently. I think actually one of the last times that I said, "Oh, do you want to come on the show?" You were just like, "I'm not watching WWE right now, so I wouldn't really have much to talk about." And is that still the case now?
Well, it's actually. I don't want to get on any kind of like moral high ground and everything. Everyone can watch what they want to watch. I ask people and keep themselves informed when they do. But like, I'm not watching. The reason I'm not watching isn't because like I don't really. Isn't because I'm not supportive of the talent or the creative element. Because NXT looks like it's been firing on all cylinders for some time, and I've kind of like put that piece of fandom behind me for a little while. Yeah, like I'm considering kind of like getting back in a little bit. How do I articulate this? One thing I kind of sorry, I'm gonna like take this back from the beginning here. This was kind of all instigated back in season 2 of my show when we were still watching wrestling on the WWE network with my guests. I felt like I was kind of building an endorsement for WWE services that I wasn't really comfortable doing anymore. So, yeah, like I'm interested to watch what they're doing, but like right now I don't feel like I'm missing much because of like how much content there is outside of the WWE bubble now. Like AEW's back, AEW's back. AEW's hit the ground running. Yeah. I don't know if I have a solid conclusion to that, but I think I answered your question.
But no, you're absolutely right. There is so much stuff out there to watch outside. Like, WWE isn't the be all and end all like everybody would like to assume that it is. Like, I'm loyal to WWE. I've been a fan of WWE for a long time, and I'll always watch it. It's probably out of habit more so than anything because it's just something I do every single week. As soon as I've got access to that TV, WWE goes on. But I'm not like closed off. I'm not narrow-minded. I know AEW's out there and it's killing it. Hence why I now cover that on this show. NWO, Jesus Christ, NWA Power is by all accounts fantastic so far, and that's a binge waiting to happen in my house. Impact is killing it. MLW's doing well. Ring of Honor, maybe not so much. I'm not hearing great things about that. And then a whole host of indie promotions that are out there as well, like from the UK. Hell, even PCW in your neck of the woods. Like, everybody is just killing it. Like, wrestling is such a good time to be a wrestling fan now. Like, there's so much stuff to enjoy. So if you're not watching WWE, it doesn't matter because there's something else to enjoy. You could just watch you could just watch AEW and you'd be fine. Like, you've got AEW Dark for free on YouTube every Tuesday, and then you got Dynamite, and then you got the pay-per-views when they drop. That's all you need.
Exactly, yeah. Like right now, what's AEW and NWA are in my rotation. I just got Power Slam TV. Smark and Friends just kind of cut a deal with them.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We're going to be watching for season 3. We're going to be watching content from their network, which is very exciting. So I've been kind of like jumping in and really exploring their library and having a lot of fun doing that. In fact, last night I actually got back from IWS, my favorite local promotion, and their houses have always been like good, but last night it was like they're on another level. Like they sold out very early, released another 30 to 40 tickets or so before like the day of. Main event was Tabernacle Team versus Private Party. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan, and if you got a local promotion near you, everyone listening, Dits, I know you got promotions near you and whatnot, but everyone, if you got an indie promotion near you, go treat yourself. Go have a great night at an indie show. Some of the best experiences you'll ever have as a fan.
And it really is. That's a genuine thing. Like, people kind of look at... They do look at it as the minor leagues when it comes to the indies, and they kind of are, like, really, when you think about it. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. They are the minor leagues, but that's not a bad thing. That should never have negative connotations to it. It never should. Like, Reach Wrestling is my local promotion, and I've been to 2 shows so far, and both of them I've enjoyed massively. Like. Mm-hmm. So it's some of the best stuff you'll see because the gloves are off. Like it's not on TV. You know, some might be recorded for the likes of, you know, Power Slam TV, Fight TV, you know, Turnbuckle TV. You know, there's plenty of, you know, wrestling streaming sites and stuff like that out there now. But the pressure's off. Like, they can just go out there and just deliver a good show for the people that have paid a ticket. So, like, you're just there. Nobody else is seeing it. It's you and these bunch of fans, you know, together watching this thing that nobody else is going to see. And it's a pretty special thing to, like, be a part of. It really is. And that's why I'm looking, like, if I'm taking my son to a wrestling show for the first time, it probably is going to be an indie show rather than a WWE show because, I don't know, it'll just have that little intimate, special feel for him. Like, I think he'll be closer to the action. He might not know who's in that ring, but I don't think it'll matter because he'll be right there next to it. He'll be able to feel it. It'll be like whenever any move hits, like he'll feel it. You know, it's a strange feeling that I get from watching like the indie stuff. So like you said, like I back up Zach here. Like anybody who is listening to this, if you have a local promotion, go and support them. And go and watch their stuff because you'll have a good night. Yeah.
One thing I will say though is just on that note about like the whole intimate setting, you're the only one seeing it. I have to put IWS over a little bit. They are now on Fight TV, so do check them out. They're also uploading their backlog of content onto independentwrestling.tv. So there's some like classic. Kevin Steen, El Generico matches going on there.
Nice.
So just a quick shout out to them. So if anyone's listening wants to check them out, I insist you do.
And don't say it's Fight TV. Fight TV's AEW side of things, isn't it?
I'm so confused about Fight TV, man. I don't have it myself. I'm not even. I know it exists. But, like, I just don't understand the logistics are just mind-boggling. Like, you know, I'm very active on social media. I feel like Fowl has a very different Fight TV available to him that I don't necessarily have over here. And you probably have, like, some other different Fight TV where you are. Like, I'm very confused about the whole process.
Yeah, and it's one of those things as well. I want to, like, get amongst it. I want to get amongst Power Slam. I want to get amongst Fight TV because it just opens the door to so much new stuff. But I just don't have the time. I can't fill my week with like that amount of wrestling. It's just insane to me. Like it boggles my mind that is even a pot. Like I struggle to watch just 2 promotions. Never mind hundreds that are available on all these platforms. Like it's insane. And for such a low amount of, by the way, I'm not in any way affiliated to Power Slam or Fight TV. So I'm not building these guys up so you can go watch them. I'm not going to give you a code or any of that kind of stuff. But it is a low price, I assume. I assume it's probably around the $7.99, $9.99 mark. I don't know. But it's still cheap to watch.
It's so cheap, yeah.
So much wrestling. Like, Netflix is like... here's a tangent. So Netflix here is... I think they keep putting the price up all the time. It's like $7.99. How much is it over your neck of the woods?
$11.99 Canadian right now.
Woo! So, and I think in Australia, because a friend of the show, Josh Robinson, he was telling me like his Netflix is like mega expensive. I think it was in like the $20s of dollars.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and I was like, Jesus, that is ridiculous. So when you look at stuff like that, even $11.99 for Netflix in Canada, you've got wrestling streaming sites for less money, and you probably get a damn sight more content on it.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to cut out there. What was that?
You've got Netflix for $11.99, but for less, you can get loads more action with wrestling, like loads more content for like $2-3 less.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like it's a no-brainer if like you're really into wrestling. And like I don't really watch as much TV as I used to outside of wrestling, so like Netflix is less and less appealing to me. But yeah, if you want to watch wrestling, like get yourself a good streaming service aside from the WWE network. Not that I'm, crapping on their product or anything, because again, their content library is has no peers. But yeah, $7.99. Grab yourself whatever's available to you. It's great stuff.
Yeah, and I just want to dedicate some of this episode to you, Zach, because I've followed you. I mean, I think I probably was aware. In fact, actually, let's get a bit of backstory out here. Like we first met when it came to fan art, funnily enough, which probably not many people would be aware of or even make that connection. You put together like a Tommaso Ciampa bit of art with the puppet strings with Gargano, I believe it was.
It was, yeah.
And I used to do a fan art of the week thing on my WordPress blog site. And that was one of my features in one of the fan arts of the week. So that's how we first started interacting. And Tommaso Ciampa himself acknowledged that piece of art.
Yeah, that was I had the dopamine rush of being acknowledged on social media by Tommaso Ciampa. It was pretty cool. But yeah, like the fan art of the week was a really cool feature that you did. It was a great shout out to some really amazing artists. I was introduced to so many very skilled artists. Some really great stuff out there, and you were able to catalog it so wonderfully.
Yeah, and I did kind of resurrect it with SLTD. It was all over on that side of things, but I don't know, for some reason it just wasn't getting the same traction that it used to get. I don't know if like fan art or wrestling fan art specifically is as sought after or as big as it used to be, but I still see fan art popping up everywhere, and if I see something pretty dope, I will retweet the hell out of it and acknowledge. You just won't be a standard retweet. I'll always retweet and comment, say, look, this is awesome, like check this out. And there is a lot of really, really good stuff out there. So I'm gutted to see the back of fan art of the week. I've kind of I stopped it without warning. I just kind of stopped because I was like, no, I don't think anybody's really paying that much attention to this, and nobody's really mentioned it since I stopped it. So I'm going to assume not many people cared, which is a shame. But when around the time when you were featured, like it was big. Like I had showcases going on. I had masses and hundreds and hundreds of views like per post. Like it was insane. Like
that's awesome.
And yours was and still is one of my favorite pieces of art that I've seen. Like it was just it was brilliant. I loved it. And that's how we obviously first came to be. And then I realized that you had a podcast, and I started listening to that. And I was like...
That came much later, though. That came much later.
Yeah. So, this was... I can't even remember when this was. Like, it's such a long time ago that I originally started the fan art stuff. But then you came out with the podcast, and I think it was probably around the time that I was kind of thinking of doing one, and obviously I had lots of obstacles in the way. I went away with work and all that kind of stuff. But yours is one of the ones I had in rotation that I listened to, because I had like Talk is Jericho, Steve Austin, Edge and Christian's one, all the, like, anybody that was a wrestler that is now a podcaster. And I kind of like, I was just like, I just want to listen to something else. And I don't know, what do you call it? Do you call us like independent wrestling podcasters or amateur wrestling podcasters? I don't know.
I like to think of myself as independent. I mean, like, I say independent, but I have like this amazing team with the Two Finger Guns Club, who are amazingly supportive, but we're still of humble means, so I still think of myself as independent.
Yeah, so I mean that's what I saw after I listened to Jericho, Austin, all them guys for so long. All it took was one indie podcast to listen to, and I just started looking for loads then, and that's what hooked me. And I was like, there's a lot of these things here, but I kind of want to get amongst it and do it myself. And yours was one of those podcasts, like so enjoyable. Like it's that nobody else does it. There's so many wrestling podcasts out there, and I'd love to say that mine is original. And I'm like I say, I'm the only Royal Navy Pro Wrestling pod, probably. That's mine. That's just me. I'm the only one. However, what I cover is the same as everybody else. I still cover WWE. I still cover AEW, but I put my own little spin on it, but it's still the same.
Yeah, what you do, though, you do very well. You've got like this really interesting dynamic. Like you use the way you use music. You have a lot of fun. Like you're always looking for new ways to present this information and these reviews, which is really admirable. It's really good stuff.
Oh, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, you should be proud. Again, I'll admit I haven't caught up with you in a little while because I have fallen out with WWE, so I haven't really been following a lot of WWE adjacent podcasts. But now that you're covering AEW, boy, I'm going to jump into some DOWPOD soon.
Hell yeah. And it's the first thing I cover as well. Like, I go, I always go Laugh of the Week, and then boom, AEW highlights. WWE comes last.
As it should.
But like I was saying, you have an original wrestling podcast. I know there are watch-along podcasts out there, and I myself try to do one, but Jesus, you cannot do a watch-along of wrestling on your own. You cannot do it. It is impossible, because you end up just watching the match and then going, oh shit, I was supposed to talk.
You need something with banter, and what's been fun about the show is like we talked about watching things vicariously through fresh eyes at the top of the show here, and I've kind of had that experience on this podcast, because what I do is like I welcome content creators and artists who are not generally associated with wrestling, and ideally not wrestling fans at all. So it's really fun to watch even like the most ridiculous matches, like Judy Bagwell on a forklift, and seeing people have like a good old fashioned laugh about it. It's fun.
And it's just such a fun little dynamic. I mean, I think I actually listened to an old one. I think it must have been a few weeks ago now. You'll be able to fill in the gaps. It was the Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky little backstage brawl that they did. I listened to that one a few weeks ago, and the reactions to it were great. Like, she loved it. She loved what she was seeing.
My guest was Amy Blackmore. She's
that's the one. Yes.
Of a Mainline Theater, which is like the local independent theater hub. It's the big one of the more renowned spaces, and of course she puts together the Fringe Festival and everything. But yeah, she was so enthusiastic about what we were watching. When it got down to the brawl, we were just having a good old laugh, especially when like Charlotte knees Ronda right in the face there.
I love
good
that
stuff.
I love that moment. This is actually turning into a little bit of an interview with you here. But I'm curious. I'm just generally curious. I have you, so I'm taking full advantage of this. Like Survivor Series can bugger off. We've finished with that.
I think we covered all the ground we can.
So when it comes to like getting your guests on and picking who you're going to go with, of course, like nobody, is really associated with wrestling. That's the whole point. But like, how do you pinpoint who you're actually going to bring on?
Well, the first 2 seasons it was easier because like my background in education is in the arts scene. I was in theater, film, specializing in like costume design and such, and that's where a lot of the guests that I brought on in those first two seasons, I knew them from that world. This third season that's coming up, it's a little bit more difficult because I've kind of like exhausted that pool of fresher contacts that I had in that world. So I'm kind of like digging deep and speaking to people I haven't spoken to in a long while, as well as people who I haven't met before. So this is going to be a very exciting season in that regard. But yeah, that's how I found guests for the first 2 seasons. And it's gonna evolve in this season and future seasons.
And I love that it's seasons as well. Like
yes, thank you.
I mean, for you, it means you get to have a breather between seasons, obviously. And it builds up that anticipation as well because I'm looking forward to season 4. When is season 3 dropping, by the way?
The ball is rolling on season 3. We haven't stepped into a studio, but we got a lot of pre-production, reached out to some guests, finalizing schedules and things like this. Not going to give you an exact date, but before the end of the year, a new season will have at least started.
So we could have a Christmas treat.
Oh, I would love to do another Christmas special. We did a Christmas special season 1, and we actually just watched Big Show versus Ric Flair in their ECW Extreme Rules match, but I just had Christmas music playing in the background. I think I'd want to do that again, or maybe evolve the concept a little more. But yeah, there could very well be a Smark and Friends Christmas once again.
Oh, please. Please let that be a thing. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. This is what the great thing about having seasons is it just builds up that anticipation. If I could do seasonal stuff with this, I would. And I've thought about it because
it's hard to do, man. Like,
it is,
you have to be on top of everything almost. There's like an unspoken obligation there.
Yeah, and I find sometimes that I'm watching stuff, but I'm not watching it as a fan. I'm watching it as this as a podcaster, taking notes on it and trying to keep up with it. My memory is terrible, so I have to write everything down. And as I'm watching stuff, I'm writing stuff down and having to pause and having to rewind and go, oh, what happened there? I need to go back to it. I don't know. I enjoy doing it. I love doing this podcast. Like I love doing it, and I'm going to continue to do it. Until it's just not possible anymore, or my well of listeners runs dry, and I go from my 1 listener to 0. It's like that. That will be the time when I go. You know what? It's time to stop. But it has taken away a little bit of that fan in me because I feel the pressure to cram everything into a short space of time, which is why initially why I used to obviously drop episodes on Thursdays. Now drops on Sundays so I can incorporate everything in, which I actually prefer anyway. I wish I did Sundays, originally, but hey, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as we've already said.
As we discussed, yeah.
But this is why my new podcast that I'm bringing out, I will be doing that as seasons.
Nice.
So I'm taking full advantage of this season stuff and it not being a wrestling podcast where I have to keep up with everything.
Exactly. Do you have like a concept in mind? Is there something that you can spill the beans here?
Well, only today. So we're recording this on the 10th of November, and this will be obviously dropping on the 17th of November. I've just dropped today the new Twitter account for it, all the information on it, so I can reveal what it is because it's out there. It's out there in the world now. So it's not original. And I hoped it was. As soon as I thought about it in my head, I was like, boom, I've got it. And then you do the thing where you search and then other people have done it and then your heart just sinks. I was like, God damn. But really, it's not original because I've been seeing this stuff for so long. It's a top 10 podcast. In fact, the tagline is it's a top 10 podcast that isn't a top 10 podcast. And I've wanted to cover like so much stuff. I was thinking of doing like a video game podcast, one about movies, following Scrubs from start to finish. Like so many ideas were floating around in my head. I was just like, I cannot settle on a niche topic. I just can't do it. So I just thought, you know what? People like top 10s. I like putting top 10s together. Why not do that? And I thought, let's just take the gloves off. Let's just pick anything and everything. And that's exactly what it is. The podcast is called 10 of Everything. I will cover video games, movies, music, smells, cars, toilet paper. It's nothing is off limits. Like
I love it.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really fun.
I'm looking forward to a podcast about smells.
It's going to be one of the first ones as well because I've already got the top 10 in my head.
Excellent.
But that'll be
I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to give this a listen.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for. Like I love doing a wrestling podcast. Don't get me wrong, but I want to do something that like people can learn about me because this isn't just like Bohemian Rhapsody is the greatest song of all time. Like that's definitely number one. Or it's not. It's my personal top 10s, and I think that's something that's missing. I think that's the gap because a lot of the ones I've seen are what people perceive to be the top 10, but this is my top 10. If I want to put Barbie Girl as my favorite song of all time, damn right I'm going to put that as my favorite song of all time. It's not, by the way. No. But I could if I wanted to because it's my top 10.
Who would we be to tell you that you're wrong for choosing Barbie Girl?
Exactly. It's a beast of a song. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. It's not going to be serious. People kind of get to learn a little bit more about me. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. And the first episode, I'm dragging in the wife to do it with me. Like the topic is right up her street, and I was just like, you know what? I need to drag her in. So you're actually going to hear my wife on this show, and maybe even my sister-in-law. It's going to be insane.
Amazing.
So
I look forward.
Yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to dropping it and just seeing what people kind of think of it. And I don't know how long it's going to run for, but like I said, it's a seasonal thing. So I'm planning on like 5 or 6 episodes a season, then taking like 2 or 3 weeks off and then going back into it. Just record it all in a wanna, take a few weeks off, and then just get back into it again. Like I think that's a nice way to do it.
It's healthy, man. It's so healthy to have that little break that you can have in your in your calendar. Absolutely.
Yeah, and if people react well to this episode, which has not covered anything really with what's going on now, you never know.
Survivor Series.
Yeah, the DOWPOD might become seasonal.
There we go.
It could very well do. Although I think I'd miss it. I think I'd miss doing it every single week. It's a nice little hobby for me. And I think if I was sat around at 3:20 in the morning, I would just be like, I feel like I should be recording a podcast right now, and I'm not doing it. And it's making me incredibly sad.
I get you. Yeah, gotta keep this.
I have so many ideas still in my head with new podcasts, and of course we've got our new podcast as well, where we book the whole invasion angle from start to finish over the course of a year to look forward to.
Coming soon, 2025 or so.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Either way, we should record again. Either way, whatever it is, I'd love to gab with you some more. This has been fun.
Well, I definitely want you to do a draft.
Okay. I'm good.
Yeah, I think that was my original thing for you, was to come on and do a draft, and that door is always open for you to, like, whenever you have a spare slot, a spare gap in your schedule. Literally, all you have to do is message me, and I will fit you in because I really want to get a draft in. Like maybe do a draft of Canadian wrestlers or something like that. It'd just be great. It'd be a lot of fun.
I would like that very much.
But before I kick you off the show, because I know we're both dads. We both have busy lives, but obviously we've plugged your show already, the incredible Smark and Friends podcast. But where can people find it? Where can people find you and all that good stuff? Plug the hell out of yourself.
Awesome. Yeah, you can find our social media feed at Smark and Friends, very plainly spelt, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow the Two Finger Guns Club, which is my supporting network, who are responsible for some amazing content, including Boldly Boinking, which is a podcast about sex and Star Trek. Oh. It is excellent. You can follow us there. Once again, that's Two Finger Guns Club. That's the number 2, not TWO. If you want to listen to the Smark and Friends podcast, we're on Stitcher, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes. If you visit us on social media, you'll find our link tree and find all the podcatchers that we are available on.
And do it, guys.
And
do
it. Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to actually walk the plank for real. It's not just going to be a segment on my show. You're actually going to genuinely walk the plank, and I'm going to kick you off my ship, and you're going to be eaten by wild, crazy fucking sharks. That's going to happen. Go listen to Smark and Friends. And go listen to Star Trek and Sex Pod. Jesus.
Yeah, it's excellent. I was on an episode of that once. We watched, it was kind of like a crossover. We watched the episode of Voyager where The Rock was there. It was great. Good fun.
Oh, yes. I actually only recently just saw that as well. It's insane.
You know what? Let me actually drop a little teaser here for season 3, if I may.
Please do.
I'm saying this, but now I have this image of when Cody announced that the AEW UK deal is going to be amazing and everything. I feel like I'm speaking ahead of myself before things are locked, but I'm going to do it anyway. I won't say who, but one of my guests in the next season is the titular character of one of the best video games of the last decade.
What?
Yeah, that's all I'll say now. That's all I'll say right now. Again, not a full lock, but it's a 90% thing, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Maybe I'll tell you off air, Dits.
I'm going to have a few guesses off air of who I think it might be, but if it's who I think it is, or possibly could be, that's going to be amazing. But guys, go and subscribe to anything that Zach is on, whether it be Smark and Friends, Smart Mouth, the Two Finger Club, whatever it is, because you don't want to miss season 3 of Smark and Friends, especially now that you've just dropped that little tidbit.
Yeah, I'm kind of smiling ear to ear as I think about how good that episode could be. So let's keep our fingers crossed, knocking on wood here.
I'm looking forward to it, buddy. And of course, thank you very much for essentially coming to the rescue today and actually giving me a show.
Oh, gladly, dude. This was a lot of fun.
The thing that I absolutely loved about this episode is the fact that the focus before and at the beginning was to do the winner takes all stuff from Survivor Series, but then it just turned into just general chit-chat all about the Smark and Friends podcast streaming, my new podcast coming out, and you guys have been listening to this for so long now. I like a good tangent. There's a lot of tangents in this, but this was a lot of fun. It's completely different from anything I've done in the previous 28 episodes of the DOWPOD. I hope you enjoyed it. There's been no highlights or the random segments that I do. It's just been two guys talking about wrestling and other stuff. It was fun for me. I'm sure it was fun for Zach as well. I hope, and I hope it was fun for you guys as well. Next week, it is back to the standard order of everything. I'm back later in the week, so I'll be trying to catch up on as much wrestling as I possibly can to give you what you're used to on that Sunday episode. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll just be something like this again if I don't have enough time to catch up. But either way, the DOWPOD is back next Sunday. I will not disappoint you with that. But to make sure you don't miss that episode, make sure you go over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe. And while you're there, leave a review, leave a 5-star rating, and then on any other podcast directories that you listen to this show on, if that's what you do, make sure you follow the show, like it, subscribe, review, all that kind of stuff across the board. Love that stuff. It makes me feel good, and I like to feel good. But that is all we got time for today. As you're listening to this, chances are I'm by the pool, drinking some beers, having a good old time. Fingers crossed that is happening right now. Unless you're listening to this like way past the time it's released, then I'm probably very, very sad in an office. Yeah, that's probably actually more likely. But we'll see. I don't know when you listen to this. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll see you on the next episode of the DOWPOD. Ciao, guys. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao.